Welcome to the next stop on your journey from paycheck to pension. If you're ready to take your finances to the next level, you're in the right place. It's time to take control of your future, starting now, and we're doing it live. Hi, we're the Stidhams, and our goal is to help you get self-directed. It's the tax-free income that will shape your legacy. It's wealth, time, and the freedom you deserve. What you're about to learn will enable you to make confident and strategic moves. It means gaining complete control to invest in what you want when you want. We've helped thousands of people just like you. And if they can do it, you can too. So we hope you're ready, because it's about time that your money started working for you. And we're so excited that you chose us to show you how.
Starting right now. Bye.
Welcome. Good evening. Happy Sunday. And thank you for joining us. Tonight, we are going to talk about a lady, call her young lady, who crushed $36,000 in debt, in just 16 months. But that's not all she did. No, that's not all we did for her. Donnell, you want to break down some of the little extras that they have to look forward to?
So what's interesting about today's example is the reason we thought to kind of bring it to the forefront is I've had a lot of conversations like this where I get a call around, hey, I've got some debt that I want to get rid of. And then once I eliminate this debt, I want to get money compounding for me so I can retire early. And I usually let them go because to me, why are we so focused on this debt if the goal is to retire early? Why wouldn't we focus on retiring early and also pay off the debt? But again, This is a consistent conversation that I'm having, and I think it's more of a conditioning conversation that I'm having, meaning we've been conditioned to, and you say this very well, we've been conditioned to finish our dinner before we worry about dessert, right? And I think this is a kind of a highlight of what that looks like. And then in addition, you've done a really good job of putting this workbook up on our page that allows people to be able to identify their income, their debts, their expenses, and understand what their cash flow is. Well, not every call do I have someone prepared or come to the call with their numbers fully intact. Or maybe they've actually used the sheet, filled out the sheet, but didn't account for some things, so the sheet is a little bit inaccurate. My point is, knowing what your cash flow is usually a challenge. And sometimes you just need that 10,000 foot view to kind of see things a little bit better, because sometimes when you're too close to it, you can lose sight of what your true cash flow is. Because if you better understood your cash flow, you could better understand what it would take to be able to pay off that debt timely, or what you could also use that cash flow for to be able to do other things. Right. So, and again, I had this same conversation multiple times last week around, I think my cash flow is this. And then we start peeling back the layers only to learn, actually, your cash flow is a lot better than you thought, which allows you to do some other things. And then again, then it's rearranging the goal. Is the goal paying off this debt first? Then we get things compounding? Or is the goal to maybe simultaneously take some action or focus on paying yourself first, putting yourself in a position so that you're building this vehicle that can produce income for you and then moving from there? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Well, and just real quick before we jump in, this is the worksheet that he's referring to for anyone who's new. Grab this. This is free. This is completely free. And this is a great way to be able to get your numbers together so that you can understand where it is that you're sitting. In addition to that, there is a debt tool page for Velocity Banking that maps out 36 months, I think is what is on there, that you can go through to see where you'd be at the end of 3 years. You can add more cells if you want. You can copy, paste, and add more, but at least gives you the first 36 months that you can kind of see where you would go if you were to apply the Velocity Banking. There you choose your debt tool, and then it kind of auto-populates some numbers in for you, and then of course you would do that too. We have a video on how to use this, and it's inside of our Facebook group right now. And we have it up on our website soon for those who are not a part of our Facebook group. But go get in the group. If you're not in there, it's a vibe. Get in there. There's a bunch of people just like you who are on their debt crushing journey and on their wealth building journey. And it's kind of nice to have other people who are on the same journey to be able to kind of commune with them and talk about different strategies, ask questions, right? And work out some solutions together. So we hope that you'll join us over there. Okay, so that's what she used. She opted in for the free workbook and other resources, and then she booked the call, and then she said, okay, here are my numbers to the
Right.
best of my ability, and we're going to find out if she was right, and we're going to find out how easy it is to get this wrong, right? Even with a worksheet like this, the worksheet only works with what you input. So keep that in mind while we're going through this example. Okay, so that being said, are you ready to jump in?
Sure.
Okay, all right, here we go.
Okay, so today's example starts with Tania. So she's 41 years of age, makes about $83,000 a year in income, and I think it ends up being somewhere around $4,500 a month that she brings home. Once after all of the taxes and all that stuff's taken out. I think it's about $4,500 a month is what she's bringing home. And I don't know if oh yeah. And so the next step was to kind of identify what is the goal? What was her goal? And she jumped on the call because her main objective was to be able to put herself in a position to where she could free up more cash flow, because her concern was the cash flow that she has currently based off the $4,500 a month that she's bringing home isn't sufficient. So the thought process was, hey, I want to put myself in a position to where I can free up more cash flow and ultimately use that cash flow to put myself in a position to be able to retire early. And there was a lot we talked. I really enjoyed this conversation because what I learned a lot about her specifically, from the position of, hey, she's kind of a trailblazer in her family. She lives in a state different from the majority of her family, and she doesn't really have a whole lot of, I'll call it, support around some of the actions that she's taken. Meaning, if she brings up the name or the term velocity banking to her family, no one knows what she's talking about. If she talks about, hey, using a debt tool to be able to pay off debt faster and put herself in a position to create more cash flow, she's getting these strange responses. So what she had mentioned was, when she had found our channel, which was fairly recently, she immediately, based off one of the examples that we were doing during our live, she immediately applied for a personal line of credit at that point. And surprising to her, because of her good credit standing and her position, as it relates to how much money she makes and debt to income ratio and all that kind of stuff, she put herself in a position to where she was able to qualify for a personal line of credit pretty quickly. And so as she's kind of been working on her numbers and understanding, hey, these are the debts I want to be able to address, she identified, hey, I want to get this truck paid off. When she had gotten that personal line of credit, she immediately used the personal line of credit to be able to pay off the credit cards that she had. And which means now she's left with, after watching us, she's left with this truck. And she wants to effectively pay off the truck, get that weight off of her shoulders, and then eventually move on to the home to get the home paid off. So she owes about $36,000 on this truck. And the home, a little bit more backstory on the home. The home is owed about $262, but I believe it's worth somewhere around, if I remember correctly, $440, if I'm not mistaken. So she has a fair amount of equity in the home as it is, which, again, from my perspective, that kind of invites an opportunity for some form of a home equity line of credit to be used in the future. But as of right now, she's picked up a personal line of credit for 15 grand. She's taken that 15 grand, paid off some credit card debt, and these are the remaining debts she's looking to pay off. And so, as it relates to velocity banking, just to, I'll call it, restate what we've already stated as it relates to velocity banking. What is it? Well, velocity banking is the process of where your income goes into your checking account, then all of your income, to include what's in savings in most part, goes onto a debt tool. And then once that dollar amount goes into that debt tool, you use that debt tool to then pay bills from the debt tool. But what ends up happening is your remaining cash flow lives on the debt tool. That remaining cash flow is what is then used to pay down the debt tool over time. And then eventually you take chunks from that debt tool to be able to, pay off debt faster, or put yourself in a position to take that positive cash flow and start producing it or using it in a secure compound interest producing vehicle. So when we started digging into the numbers, though, this was the piece that kind of jumped out at me. She said, based off the sheet, the workbook that she had done, she had completed, her cash flow was somewhere around 150 bucks. So we started working backwards from that number. How did she come up with $150? If she got 4,500 in cash flow, I'm sorry, $4,500 in income, and her expenses in total, and when I say expenses, I'm talking the normal stuff, the cable, gas, cell phone, the stuff that you really can't change. These are the expenses that are associated with just living, just being. And she has about $1,500 in regular expenses. Now, when it comes to the debts, though, the total debts she accumulated was somewhere around $290,000 in total debts. The total debt includes the mortgage, the truck, and I think what she was originally doing was still including the credit cards that was accounting for that. Once she did all the math inside of the sheet, ends up being about $150 in cash flow. But this is the part that just stood out to me. Like, there's no way, like, my math is a little bit different. Again, I'm just generalizing. If she brings home 4,500, she has expenses of 1,500. She has a car note or truck note or car loan or truck loan of about $600 a month. Okay, so $1,500 in expenses, $600 on the car that or the truck that she owes, and she has a mortgage of about $1,500. So again, $1,500 in expenses, $1,500 on a mortgage, $600 on a car note, 15, 15, and 6. That's $3,600 if you add that up. $3,600. She brings home 45. I'm counting $900 a month. But she was adamant about, hey, there's only $150 in cash flow. Okay, so I accepted that. And what we started doing was just digging into, okay, if you only have $150 in cash flow, I would like to understand where this $900 that I think you have is actually going. Because clearly you didn't identify all of the expenses, if that's the case, or you have extra money going places that maybe it doesn't need to. And so that's where we just started peeling back the layers. And what we kind of identified was, okay, there is a certain dollar amount going into savings. She does have a certain dollar amount going into her emergency fund. And yes, she is from time to time making extra payments on some of her expenses. And yeah, there's other things in here as well. But the bottom line is what she had filled out in the sheet showed about $1,500. I'm sorry, about $150 in cash flow. And when you start peeling back the layers, start understanding where this money is actually going, it was clear that she had far more than that. And at a minimum, it looks something like this. If she had 2 credit cards that she paid off with that personal line of credit, 2 credit cards. And when you add up the amount those 2 credit cards was costing her monthly, meaning if you paid off 2 credit cards, that means you're no longer paying the monthly payment on those credit cards anymore. So if you're no longer paying the monthly payments on those credit cards that the personal line of credit paid off, at a minimum, your cash flow just increased by that dollar amount. And so we established that that was approximately, I think it was about $500. So there was about $500 in credit card payments that she was making that she was no longer making. And so if she says she has about 150 in cash flow, that still leaves at least $250 that's missing. And what we had established was, okay, she wasn't accounting for what she was putting in savings. She had about $50 to $100 going into her savings and her rainy day fund. And then she was making about $100 in extra payments. So when you add up the $100 in extra payments plus the money that was going into savings, there's the $900 a month in cash flow that she has every month. That if we take a full velocity banking approach, the thought process is all of that cash flow should just be addressing the debt tool. And we have a debt tool. That debt tool is a personal line of credit. So ultimately what we learned was, let me use this. Because her cash was going in multiple directions, we really had no true idea as to what her true cash flow was. But once we identified what that math looked like, it ended up being about $900 a month is what we'd identified as being that cash flow overall after we'd identified how much was actually going towards savings or extra payments, or even I think there was some pieces in there around. She had $50 going into an IRA, if I'm not mistaken. But the bottom line is, out of that 150 that she was mentioning, there was a significant amount that we just had to account for, and we just did that through discussing. And so now we jump back on, okay, your goal. And most of the time when I get on a call, everyone's goal looks pretty linear, meaning I've got this income, I've got this cash flow, I've got these my goal immediately is to free up that cash flow. So what I'm looking to do is pay off some debt over a certain period of time. And once I get the truck paid off, then I can focus on the next bill, which would be my home. And once I pay off the home, pay off the truck, then I can focus on the retire early part. Well, one thing to also remember is Tania's 41 years old. So, okay, maybe the truck doesn't take very long to pay off. But that home, a $260,000 mortgage, whether you're using velocity banking, first position, second position HELOC, or just making extra payments on your mortgage, to pay off $262,000 and making $83,000 a year, it's going to take a significant amount of time, regardless of what vehicle you use. So if you're waiting to pay off the mortgage before you actually focus on retirement, how much retiring early is really going to happen here if we're waiting to pay this mortgage off before we get there? And so usually my approach is to kind of work through your specific goal. But when I hear certain things like retire early, like I want to be able to fire my job, like I want to put myself in a position to where I'm building or put my family in a position to where we're creating or generating generational wealth, I usually challenge back with, well, how can you do that now versus waiting 10, 15 years before you end up 10, 15 years for paying off this debt before you kind of start that path. And so in essence, what I'm saying is, in most cases, our journey looks more like this. Meaning, how can we take our income? Yes, we may address some debt or some debts along the way, but the objective is to move through this at a pace to where we can start generating that income as quickly and as early as possible. And you guys have seen the equation that I use for generating wealth. It's about pay yourself first. Meaning, before you pay a bill, before you pay a debt, before you focus on a loan or paying off your car or paying off your home, have you done your due diligence around putting yourself first, paying yourself first, putting money in a position to where you can get it compounding? And again, if the objective is to retire early, my other challenge is name a traditional retirement vehicle that will allow you to retire early today. In most cases, those vehicles look like real estate. Like if you are aggressive, using the BRRRR method, buying one property, living in that property, fixing that property up, and then moving to the next one and rinse and repeating, buying a duplex, living in half of it, renting the other half out, allowing that to pay for the full duplex. And then, and once that machine is moving, you move on to the next duplex and rinse and repeat. In most cases, you can retire yourself early if you're involved in the tenants, the toilets, and the trash. But what other vehicles outside of real estate allow you to honestly be able to put yourself in a position to retire early? I don't know of many, with the exception of a secure compound interest account. And so the way a secure compound interest account places you in a position to be able to retire early is we have to pay ourselves first. We have to focus today because it does take time for a vehicle like a secure compound interest account, which is just a cash value life insurance policy with leverage. It does take time for money to be able to build and grow inside of a product like that. And so again, in most cases, this journey is a little bit more complicated than just, once I pay off my debt, then I can start focusing on the on building wealth. In some cases, it's simultaneous action, meaning I'm doing both at the same time while also putting myself in a position to be able to hit my goals. And so the question that we want to answer today is, so how much time would be wasted if we focused on the actions that she had requested? And that is, I want to pay off the truck and I want to pay off the house. Like, how long would that take? And for that, I did kind of, so obviously, as nice as these slides are, this is my wife doing her thing, but I did kind of build out what that would look like over time if we were to just focus on paying off the truck to start. And I'll make this a little bit bigger, but I just want to kind of highlight what you're seeing here, kind of overall. So she did pick up a personal line of credit, a PLOC, personal line of credit for $15,000. That $15,000 PLOC paid off 2 of the credit cards that we were referencing in this process. Those 2 credit cards equated to about $500 in cash flow, something like that. So somewhere around $500 in cash flow in total is what increased once she paid off those cards. But when she paid off the cards, obviously the $15,000 PLOC at, what was that interest rate? I think it was 10.7%, if I'm not mistaken. $15,000 PLOC, 10 points, or was it 13?
It was 13.
13.
Yeah.
$15,000 personal line of credit at 13% interest is what she's kind of paying on that. And so when she paid off the credit cards, it almost maxed out the personal line of credit and took it from a balance of 0 up to a balance of 14 grand. So we've established she has $900 in cash flow. So if she has a personal line of credit, and it's an open-ended personal line of credit, which means it can be used as a debt tool, how long would it take to pay down that debt tool to then be able to chunk away at the car? We're going to focus on the car first. So again, 45 years of age. She got a $15,000 line of credit, personal line of credit. Oh, and one other thing to note, she also receives a bonus every March. Every March there's a bonus, and it's been consistent over the last 3 years of around between $6,000 and $7,000. So I just grabbed the amount for last year, and I just assumed that this year would be right around the same. So she also has a bonus that's going to be at play here. So that's going to allow her to pay down this debt a little bit faster. So she's got a $15,000 line of credit, balance of $14,000. She makes again, $4,500 a month. And at $4,500 a month, after all bills are paid, there's $900 of cash flow left. So in essence, from month 1, which is what we're in, which is December till March. So December, January, February, March till March, month 4. So from December to month 4, she would have made 4 payments on this personal line of credit, meaning all of her income would have gone in. The cash flow would have stayed on the debt tool. And so the balance would have been somewhere around, let's just call it 12 grand or something like that, after that 4-year period. But then she would have gotten a $6,200 bonus, dumped that into the PLOC, which would have dropped the balance down even further to somewhere above, I'd say a little bit less than 6 grand at that 4-month mark. Well, at this point, since we have about $10,000 of room between the limit on the line of credit and where her balance actually is, we want to take $10,000, take that $10,000 and dump it onto the principal of the truck. Remember, the goal is to pay off the truck. So when we do that, the original balance on the truck at month 1 was $36,000. We would have paid 4 months of the monthly payment on the truck. So 4 months, or 4 times $602 is the monthly payment on the truck. And we would have then dumped in another $10,000 of, am I frozen?
You're frozen.
Hello.
Yeah. You're totally frozen.
Wonderful.
Well, let's take this time to just, we've been trying to troubleshoot what the heck is going on with this camera. It's actually not the camera, because we've done this before and it fixed it. So it has to be power strip issue or something like that. We're trying to figure out what it is. Clearly it wasn't what we thought this last time. So I think we've got it figured out. Amazon's going to hook us up. We've got the solution in the mail. But Here's what I would like to just, if since we have this moment of pause, I would like to just uh, reiterate that in the beginning, she did not see her numbers this way. And this is why it's really important to be able to have all of your numbers and have the entire figure. Now, we I get to hear the calls when you guys call in and you have your appointments with Donnell because we record them. And the reason why we record them is because one, it helps everybody learn, like on our team, how to best help people, right? They can go through and say, "Ma'am, look at this example of this person." What was so interesting about this whole situation is that she had like 10 plot twists. So in the beginning, she gave what she thought was the important information. Here's my cash flow, here's my goal. What was so interesting was seeing all of the, oh yeah, and by the way, I got this PLOC, and oh yeah, and by the way, I used to have these credit cards that I just paid off, so I'm not making those payments anymore. And oh yeah, by the way, this is kind of another thing that I wanted to throw in there.
Bonus.
And by the time we got to the end of the call, she had all this new information. But if we had all this information in the beginning, right? If she thought that all of that was important enough, if she understood why those particular details were important, then the call could have been far more productive and maybe could have reshaped what was discussed, right? So this is why it's really important to have not only to have your numbers, but to get educated on this topic. Now, in her defense, she just learned, she just started, she just jumped in. So kudos to her for one, just starting to learn about this topic and then jumping into a call to make sure, hey, I'm starting to do my strategy, but I want to make sure that I'm doing this right. That's probably what, 80% of the calls that you get?
Easily.
Just wanting to make sure, okay, I think I've got this down. Let me run it by you, and then you tell me if I'm on the right track. How dope is it just to be able to have access at that level, just to make sure that you are headed in the right direction, or for somebody else to say, you're senior in the process. Not saying that you're a senior because you're 50, Donnell. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that somebody in the process who's farther along than you to be able to say, hey, maybe you need to course correct right around here, or this math is not mathing, so something must be being left out. And in her situation, there were a lot of things that she was leaving out because she just didn't feel like they were important. How significant did the outcome, did those elements make for the outcome? And so that's what I wanted to say, just sharing the part that was most important to me out of this example.
But I think you're spot on though, because like the way things started to just leak out as we talked further, and the piece that stuck out for me was she made it a point to say, hey, it's all on me. I'm doing this by myself. I really don't, I just found you guys, so I'm still learning these tools, and I called it validation. I'm looking for, hey, am I at least thinking about this properly? And I think that's what's also so powerful about our Facebook group, because in essence, it's a community of people that are absolutely, you know what, hey, I'm trying something. Does that make sense? And the community jumps in and either, pats you on the back to help you understand, or to give you the validation of, yes, things are going correctly. Or you get some nuggets in there that, you know what, here's what I tried, or here's how this same process or same thought process impacted me. And so you find these little nuggets within these conversations as well. So no, I think you're spot on as it relates to that.
Cool. Well, just again, know your numbers, understand where your leverage is. And you can't understand where your leverage is unless you are fully assessing your situation. So if this is that you might be thinking, oh, that payment, or I don't want him to know that I spend this much on this particular thing, or that payment's not really important, I'll just leave that out of the equation. You make how much you make and you spend how much you spend. And to us, it is not personal. We are not here to judge. So just want to throw that out there. We are never here to judge. We are only here to help. And the other part of this is she had her own goal, right?
Right.
She had her goal. It doesn't mean that if she was really looking towards the future, that she might change those goals, right? Once she walked down that road, she realized like, oh, I was doing that linear thing that was that some of that conditioning that was there to make me feel better. Some of the words that you were using in the call, which I really appreciated, were that that the conversation that you were having was actually goals that make her feel good. And it wasn't a mathematical discussion. First, it was, we're only talking about the goals that make you feel good. And the reason why they make you feel good is because we're programmed to eat our dinner before we have dessert. That makes us feel good, that we can check the box that now we've earned dessert, right?
Right. We've earned the right.
Right. And so in a sense, what her goal is right here at this moment, before she really got started on this strategy, she was trying to think of, how can I feel good about building for my future? How can I feel good about making myself in the future a priority? So how can I crush this debt so that then my future self can feel proud that I then did that, check that box first, and the dessert is that I'll have financial freedom. The dessert is that I'll have financial security in the future, right? And until I've earned my right to invest in myself in that way, then I can't do it. So this is why I have to hurry up and pay off this debt. And how many people are thinking like that, right? And you're not associating it with these are emotional goals. This has nothing to do with what mathematically makes sense. By the time you wake up 20 years later, you realize that, do you feel better that you paid off the debt? Because the next layer of that emotional strategy is, holy crap, I do not have enough to survive. I don't have the income that I need, and I could have done something different 20 years ago. So this is why I'm bringing it up. I'll stop here, but it's emotional goals versus what mathematically makes sense. And so that's what you're gonna see here as he unpacks or peels back the layers on this strategy. So let's dive back in.
Thank you. So as I mentioned, the truck payoff, the truck original, I'll call it loan on the truck's $36,000. So we're 4 months into that $36,000 payment. So we've made 4 payments of $602. So 4 times 602, $2,400, whatever that dollar amount is. And then at year 4, we're also going to dump $10,000 into the principal on this truck as well. And so once that's done, we end up with a ending balance of about $23,592. And then, once we do that, we now have a maxed out personal line of credit. So now what we have to do is do velocity banking. And so when we do velocity banking, it takes us, I think this ends up being about 12 months to pay down this $10,000. And so pay down at least $10,000 on this $15,000 HELOC. So the HELOC's not paid off in 12 months. But what we've done is our cash flow of $900 a month, our cash flow that lives on the PLOC. So we're paying the minimums on all other bills. We're paying all of our expenses from this debt tool. And then the balance at the end of the 12 months on the personal line of credit, we have room for about 10 grand. And then what we're going to do at that 12th month is take another $10,000 and dump that into the principal of the home of the truck. And so again, we had $23,592 12 months ago. We paid $602 or 12 months of the $602 payment. So 12 times 602, and then we dumped in another $10,000. Well, we have about $63,688 left. Well, as I mentioned the first time, we have this bonus here of about $6,200 that happens on the 4th month. Well, if we spent 12 months in, if we're 12 months in, well, then 4 months later, on our 16th month, there's going to be an additional $6,200 bonus that's going to be added. So when you add that bonus to the balance of the, or add that bonus to the home equity line of credit, add that bonus to the personal line of credit, and then use that personal line of credit to dump into the principal of the truck, what ends up happening is you're left over with about $168. So I think it's safe to say that truck is now paid off at the end of the 16th month. Again, 12 months Being the first year, at 4 months into the second year, we're going to get another bonus. We use that bonus to pay off the remaining balance of the truck. And so in essence, we have now paid off this $36,000 truck in 16 months. Well, there's a few things to note here as a result. As a result of that 16-month payoff, our mortgage, we've spent about 16 months paying into our mortgage. That mortgage payment is about $1,500 a month. So if the mortgage started out as $262, if you simply put the mortgage, and I've done it already, I've got the HELOC calculator showing it, but if you take that $262 at a 2.75 interest rate and a mortgage payment of $1,500 a month, mathematically in the amortization schedule, she would be somewhere around on that 16th month of the amortization schedule, right around $254,000 is what would be left on the mortgage. So we got a mortgage of $254, this $1,500 payment, and notice I am not paying off the PLOC. The PLOC, the PLOC at this point, at this stage, at the 16th month, is still full, meaning it's at its limit of 15 grand. But I still have I have a new cash flow number now though. If the truck is paid off, and my original cash flow was $900, the truck is $602. The cash flow that I originally had was $900. $602 plus $900, that's $1,500. I have a new cash flow dollar amount of $1,500. Well, I kind of jumped ahead at this stage because there are some things that are just facts. She was able to get this personal line of credit pretty quickly from the bank that holds her mortgage because she's in such a positive credit. She has such a positive credit portfolio. So what's the likelihood? What's the odds of her then being able to qualify for a first position HELOC to not just pay off the mortgage of $254,000, but in addition, add that $15,000 that's owed on the PLOC? So I put both of these together. So what are the odds of her being able to qualify for a first position HELOC of $269,000? And let's talk about a first position HELOC. Like, what do I mean? So we're going to take a home equity line of credit and pay off the mortgage. The home equity line of credit of $269,000 is going. 254 of that is going to pay the mortgage off. And when that happens, there's no longer a mortgage payment, which means my cash flow has just increased from $1,500 up to $3,000. But now I still, and then we're going to take that remaining 15 grand and pay off the personal line of credit. So the personal line of credit's paid off, the mortgage paid off. Now I have a full or a maxed out first position home equity line of credit, but I also have cash flow of $3,000. $3,000 a month is 36 grand. So how long would it take to pay off a $269,000 first position HELOC, given the fact that I have $3,000 in cash flow? And sweetheart, if you would slide over to the HELOC calculator, I will show you.
There you go.
Thank you. So, and I'll make this a little bit bigger, but basically, let me just share with you what it is we're looking at. We've got a $269,000 balance. The first position HELOC that I was able to find based off her credit profile is about 8.75%. So that's actually pretty good right now, at least compared to the personal line of credit of 13. So this first position HELOC being about 8.75%. And remember, her cash flow or her monthly income is $4,500 a month. And I'm showing now monthly expenses of $1,500, meaning the only expenses left are the basic expenses that she can't get rid of because we've paid off the truck in 16 months, and we've now paid off the mortgage, which means there's no longer a $1,500 mortgage payment. So we picked up cash flow of almost $3,000 in total. So $4,500 in income, $1,500 in cash, and $1,500 in expenses. So that leaves us cash flow of about $3 grand. So how long would it take? Kind of blow this up a little bit. Oh, that's right. This won't let me make it larger. How long would it take to pay off that mortgage? Well, if you take a look here, come on. How long would it take for us to pay off that personal line of credit? I keep saying personal line of credit and I keep saying mortgage, but what I mean is first position HELOC. How long would it take for us to pay off that first position HELOC? And that's sitting here. It's going to end up being somewhere around 146 months is what ends up happening. And if we look at the detail report, so if I come here, this shows how get there. That I can make bigger. Oh, well, let me make that bigger either. Anyway, it shows us the $4,500 in payments that we're making every month. There's about $1,900 in interest, and the interest gets smaller as we pay down. And then we've got the $1,500 in normal expenses that we're paying from the HELOC. So again, just using a simple HELOC calculator, it will then take us an additional about 146 months for us to be able to pay off or pay down this HELOC. So this HELOC would be zero in about that amount of time. So if you slide back over to the Vibe board, so if we were to do what was asked, and that is pay off this mortgage, it would take us an additional 146 months from the time we paid off the truck. So 146 months equates to about 12 years. So it's 12 years plus the 16 months that it took to pay off the truck. We're talking Tania would be 54 years of age before we started focusing on her future. She would be 54 years of age before we decided to start building or at least putting her in a position to where she can retire early.
And
now,
right here, she's 41.
Right.
I just wanted to circle because I can now.
Thank you. And so the key piece around that is if we follow this linear approach that most of us tend to see things, she wouldn't start contributing to her secure compound interest account until she's 54 years of age. Where's the retire early in that?
Right.
Versus I'm fine with paying off the truck. I have my own disagreements around whether we should pay off the truck or not. But let's say we do. We pay off the truck in 16 months because that's not that long. 16 months added to her age. She's now 42 instead of 41. Okay, fine. She just picked up cash flow of about $602. So now her total cash flow is $1,500. What if, of that $1,500, what if we take $1,000 and get that compounding at age 42? Then take that remaining $500. We can take that $500 and pay off the personal line of credit on its own, or we can still apply for the first position home equity line of credit and follow that approach. But my whole point is pay yourself first. Take an opportunity to identify how much of that cash flow can be used to be put to work for you so you can put yourself in a position such that you can potentially retire early. So, sweetheart, if you want to slide over to the calculator, I can show you what that looks like as well. So at age 42, and I just ran this out to age 60. We can run it out longer, but if we run this out to age 60, again, 42 years of age 60, taking $1,000 of that $1,500 in cash flow, getting it working. And by age 60, she would have about $500,000 in cash value. And that $500,000 equates to about $58,000 in income. And it's a life insurance policy. So she's buying the initial death benefit of about $360,000. If God forbid something happened to her after that, she'd have about $1.9 million that she's able to pass on to her beneficiaries. Notice, I didn't pay off a home, but what I did was I created a vehicle that by age of 60, she would be in a position to take $58,000 tax-free for life. Now, is that retire early? I think in most cases, if you talk to the average American, I would say 60 is. It's not 55, obviously, but she could still get there as well if she were to just simply take a little bit more of that cash flow and get it working for her. But I didn't want to be too aggressive. I didn't want to, because I'm realistic. $500 a month in cash flow to be able to pay off that personal line of credit would take some time. But this is the piece that I like. If at age 60, she was handed $58,000 in tax-free income on top of what she already has, on top of what she already does, how much of her expenses could be paid with that $58,000, which would then allow her to put even more money inside of a vehicle like this. So ultimately, that's it. So 42 years of age till age 60. And again, you play this out a little bit longer. What does this look like at age 65? Play this out a little bit longer, she's a millionaire, right? She's got $100,000 roughly about tax-free in income and about $900,000 in cash value available, all because she decided to focus on herself first while also paying down debt and eliminating some of the weight that she's been carrying. So that's it, sweetheart. Any questions or anything?
Let's go back back for just a moment to where she started because she's got 83,000. She's making right now at 42, 80.
83,000.
Huh, say that again?
She's making 83,000, which equates to about $4,500 in income every month
Right,
after taxes and all of that.
right. And so if, let me go find that inflation calculator that I was using before. I think this is it. Yeah. So 83,000 dollars in 2023. Oh, this is going. Yeah, okay, here we go. $83,000 and you had her retiring in 25 years on the
It's roughly 23,
23. Okay.
showing 99,359.
Because right now it's showing she's making more in retirement than she is right now. But what impact does that really have to her in 23 years, right?
Yeah, and there's so many factors here, right? Because I'm showing her not making any more income. I'm showing the same bonus and I'm
Right.
showing the same income throughout this process. Clearly that's not the case, right?
Right.
She will get promotions, she will make more income, and these bonuses of 6,200, I didn't even include that into these equations beyond year 2. So there's also a consistent number of bonuses that she will still be having. So there's a lot of, I'll call it additional variables here that will make this look even better.
Right.
I would call this the worst case scenario.
Yeah, which is still good. Okay, still better than what a lot of people have. Here's why I brought this up, and I like that you didn't include her bonus every year because this gives her that wiggle room, and this says that you didn't like max her out, right?
Right.
So I love that. $83,000 in 23 years is 163 at 3% average inflation rate is equivalent to $163,807.68. So if you make 83,000 today and in 20 years when you retire you're going, gosh, I need to, because this is the equation, right? This is like
right.
this is the flag that I wave. If the traditional equation for figuring out how much you need in retirement is to take your income today, multiply it by however many years, it's not enough. You're not going to have enough because as we continue to grow now, what was the difference of 3% back in 1982, right? 20 years later, was that almost $100,000 more? No, it wasn't. So the difference, because the numbers were just smaller, it didn't have as big of an impact. Now, as the numbers continue to get bigger, you got to imagine yourself. Would you get paid in 20 years almost double what you're being paid right now?
And even
We don't
along those
know.
same lines, what other options does she have? Or what other options do we all have? And that would be traditional retirement planning. So when you
Right,
compare those numbers to what would it look like if she focused her attention on traditional retirement planning?
right. Yeah. So if she needs to actually be, in order to have this same like quality of life, this same lifestyle, what is it that she would actually need to be putting in the secure compound interest account in order to yield somewhere closer to 163 to make it more, to make her better prepared for inflation and
So
compensate for that?
again, I didn't do the math. I just know she had $1,500 in cash flow. And this is where I go back to, if the focus was on building wealth and the focus is on, again, following the wealth equation, which is pay yourself first, what would it look like if you took all of that cash flow and got it compounding? And
Mm-hmm.
so if at a minimum it was just the cash flow of $1,500,
Yeah.
that puts us a little bit closer to the 163, because I'm also confident that 163 that you put into that calculator was based off the 83, which is those are before tax dollars. So the 163 after tax would be, actually this would be more than the 163 after tax amount that would be needed, and
That's
this
fair.
is a tax-free dollar amount. So
Right.
when you,
Yeah.
so here the maths, because if she was in a position to take her cash flow and get it compounding, this would be the result that that she would need.
Yeah. And that's significant to consider, the tax-free element of this. Let me ask you this. Can you go back a couple of years? Because remember we were talking about it was only 16 months that she lost by paying off the truck. Let's say she made some different decisions and it took her 2 years, just so because we can't put 16 months in here.
Yep.
Let's go back to 40, I guess. Not that, because you started at 42, even though 16 months, she would probably be more like 43, right?
Yeah,
But let's go
depends.
back to,
But
what'd
go
you
ahead.
say?
It depends, but go ahead. I'm with you. I'm with you on where you're
I'm
going.
just
Go ahead.
saying, let's just go back 3 years,
Okay.
two or 3 years to see what the difference would be. Because this is the point. The point is time is your greatest asset. Time is your greatest asset. And guess what, folks? Time is free. You're not working for your time. We're not earning more time. We can't. You can't even pay for time. However, we use our time to pay for things all the time. However, we can't reverse that. You can't pay for more time. So here's why I wanted, because this is just a simple strategy. This is still pretty linear. Every month
Right.
you just put in your payment. We haven't even we just covered the reverse velocity banking strategy, which if we were to take her exact example and flip it, reverse it, right?
Right.
I got that.
Because
Put my thing down, flip it and reverse it.
If we were to
And-
do that for her, then it would be a completely different outcome from this, right?
so we can talk through that because we know, let's say the truck is gone. The only expenses left are normal expenses of $1,500 a month and the mortgage of $1,500 a month. So there's $3,000 of expenses that need to be addressed. 3,000 times 12 is 36 grand. So the question that you ask yourself is, at what point in this equation would she have 36 grand available to her to be able to leverage and be able to use? Let's see. I got to put the age back just so we do that. Do it correctly. So 42 till what would that age be? Let's try 55. I'm making up a number. I don't know. That's too far. So let's go 10 years, 52.
Well, I love that you're doing this though, because this is what you can do too. If you opt in
Absolutely.
to grab our free resources, we will send you access to this calculator, and then you can play with your own numbers and see what the outcome would be. That's what's so dope about this,
And
is
you
that
know what? That's
there's no
still-
gatekeeping here. You get access to use this too. Thanks,
Let's
Frankie.
go 48. Okay. So if her expenses are 36 grand, by the age of 48, so 6 years in, she would have cash value of 123,000. So could she leverage $36,000 from this number to be able to pay her $36,000 in expenses? Short answer to that question is yes. So if she is paying her $36,000 of expenses by this leverage, then what would she be able to do with that remaining $3,000 that's left over? How could she get that remaining $3,000 of her income that's left over and get it compounding, get it growing for her even further? And again, in the reverse velocity banking example, I had to do a brand new policy because it's just, I can't throw an additional $3,000 into this equation and it pick up from age 48.
Right.
I would just have to start off at 48, and we're missing compound cycles when we do that. So I'm still under promising in doing this example, but my point is it's possible. My point is, if she was to start, matter of fact, I'll use this one over here. If she was to start a new, a new secure compound interest account at the age of 48 till that same age of 65, for that $3,000 a month, it's a game changer. Oh, that's not 3,000. We're
One of
talking
the-
about cash value, come on, of about $1.2 million. We're talking about liquidity or income of about $147,000 on top of what this vehicle is able to do at $1,500 a month till that same age of 65. So there's really no comparison here as to the power of a vehicle like this. And again, this is under promising because, as I mentioned, starting a brand new a secure compound interest account, dumping in that additional $3,000 over time, it just the math isn't cohesive because I'm starting a brand new policy at this point.
Okay, we have some questions, so I want to
Yes.
get those out.
Let's do it.
Rose says, is there any situation that you know of where a bank won't recast the amortization in the mortgage? So
Yeah. Go ahead.
back when you were talking about should she attack her mortgage or is there some other opportunities? When would they not recast that?
Yeah, so it depends on the type of mortgage that you have. And I think the moral of the story is there are people out here that get these mortgages that have a lot of incentives tied to them. For instance, the only example that I have would be VA loans. A lot of times, VA loans, they are so, I'll call it discounted, that the banks won't allow you to recast them because from the bank's perspective, we've already lost enough money. But I'd say a conventional or FHA or traditional loan, I have yet to run into a bank that won't allow. Now, the fees associated with recasting or the criteria around what will allow you to recast may be different, meaning there are banks out there that they will recast in increments of $10,000. So you would have to make chunks of $10,000 or more for them to recast. There are banks out there that will allow unlimited recast, meaning you can do it as many times as you want. There are banks out there that will allow a certain number within a year. So it all varies. But as far as you not being allowed to recast, the only time I've experienced that I've never experienced it personally, but the only time I've experienced it with a client has been a VA related loan for a veteran.
Yeah, that's what Roderick was just saying. And that's so unfortunate. Again, I just feel like, why? Why not? It doesn't seem fair. Yeah, see, I remembered. He says the same thing. And it's just not fair. I don't think that that's okay. But here's the cool part. The cool part is that banks are now more versed and they're becoming more aware of these strategies that people are wanting to use for their personal finances. And as a result, they are coming up with different types of products or educating their employees, their bankers or lenders on how people are able to leverage, like, just because we don't tell you to use it this way, does that mean you can't use it this way? No. You've been educating bankers on how we utilize their products in our own strategies for years now. So there's tons of people who have learned a lot just because of you calling in to gain access to things that you should have access to, only because you knew, though, right?
It's funny. I had one of our I don't know if we call them viewers or listeners, maybe subscribers. Subscribers. That's
Yeah.
what they call, right? Subscribers.
Our fam. Yeah.
Family.
Yeah, they're our fam.
Family. So I had one of a gentleman reach out to me through text and just basically say this: Hey, I know I was watching your video and I know you mentioned you used Bank of America to get your first position HELOC. I've called Bank of America 5 separate times and no one has any idea as to how to approach this process or how to even, they keep telling me that they do not offer first position HELOCs.
Yeah.
And so he asked if I could provide him with the exact person's name that I talked to. And so I sent that information over to him. And I think the funny part about that to me is she's still the only one in the company who kind of understands how this process works. So I did
That's
send him that.
crazy.
It's nuts. It's nuts. But it's a fact that 9 times out of 10, you're working with a banker who is only allowed to sell you this list of items that he was presented to when he walked in the door. If a first position HELOC isn't on that list, from his perspective, they don't offer it.
Well, shout out to our Bank of America Shiro, our
Grace
Shelock
Aponte is her
Shiro.
name. Grace Aponte.
Grace, who is a Shiro for the Shelocks. She needs to get her a cape. Get Grace a cape because she's out here saving lives and futures, really, just with information. That's what the crazy part is, that the only difference here is information. So, speaking of information, though, we are going to have a guest star coming on our show who is an expert in first position HELOCs. And this person is going to be able to come on and answer all of your questions, but we're going to be able to offer, whereas some people call in, they say, hey, Donnell, how can I get a first position HELOC, right? Hey guys, can you help me get a first position HELOC? And we're not lenders. We're just teaching the strategy and how we utilize products that already exist out there. We can't help you qualify. We can't write a loan or whatever it's called for first position HELOC. We don't do that. It's not us. That's not our jam. However, we know people who do. So we're going to start bringing people on here so that you know who you can go to, who is versed in these topics. So if you haven't already, subscribe so that you can get notified when we have those live streams. They're going to be coming up here really soon. We're going to start in December.
On that same note, I would love to hear from our fam around those of you who would consider yourself an entrepreneur, those of you who don't have a traditional W-2 income.
Right.
What kind of challenges have you run into in being able to qualify for a personal line of credit, a mortgage, a first position home equity line of credit, whatever the bank associated vehicle might have been? What are some of the challenges you've run into? Because for me and this guest that she's referencing, this is a deep rooted issue that I've been wanting to solve for a long time. And I have my reasons as to why. I have my challenges as an entrepreneur as to what the hoops I have to jump through to be able to qualify for first position HELOC. But I would love to, maybe there's some things that I'm missing. So I would love to hear from this group, at least from my entrepreneurs, at least, what are some of the challenges you've run into in being able to be qualified for a first position or a second position HELOC, given the fact that you don't have a standard W-2 income like some of our cohorts? So.
Yeah, and what have you already counted out? Like counted yourself out of being able to leverage certain strategies because you just might assume, or have you gone down the path? Is there someone who has said, oh, here's a back door, here's a workaround in that particular type of strategy for you as an entrepreneur? Because you're right, we are on the hunt. I really mean it. We are Seriously. Laser focused in on finding solutions for entrepreneurs, because you can't say that we're a government who encourages starting businesses, right? There's grants to start a business. There's loans to start a business. Then at the same time, penalize people for having what looks like a natural process of business, which is that your income and your finances just look different than somebody who has a 9 to 5, a career position. And so
and I think
we have to have better solutions. And until we start demanding them, until we start talking about them, we're just really at the mercy of whatever they're willing to give us. And that's not okay. The more that the demand goes up and the more that it makes sense and they see that it's a win-win, because obviously there has to be something in it for them too, right? When they see that it's a win-win and the risk is maybe reduced out of this process, whatever, that's a rabbit hole. We're going to say that for another time. The point is, we're not waiting anymore. Again, we're looking out for those solutions. So that's what we're doing.
And Lewis had a great point around consistent level income, because that's usually the normal message that's provided to entrepreneurs from banks is the consistent level income. But I want to peel that layer back even further. Like, let's get more specific around how to properly present ourselves to a bank, because I can fill out a profit and loss sheet and show that that consistent income, but I want to get even more granular than that, because we're able to do so with the W-2 process. But as it relates to entrepreneurs, this process is very, I'll call it vague, very general. But I want to get more specific and identify what those opportunities are in this process.
Well, the other part of this business becoming self-directed, helping others become self-directed, is self-directed accounts. And a lot of the time when you are flown out to conferences or groups to talk about the benefits of a self-directed account, you're talking to entrepreneurs, you're talking to investors, you're talking to people who are looking for ways to even create tax shelters so that they pay less taxes on the money that's growing, the investments, whether if it's a business, right? or a real estate purchase. So whatever those purchases are for them to grow their income, and again, could be a business, they can create a tax shelter in a very similar way that is offered to people who have these to employees, right, of larger companies. And so, matter of fact, the benefits could be even larger when you can do it yourself in this way, because the corporations aren't taking the cuts out of these accounts, right? So because you're able to talk about these particular types of things, this is the part that I feel like there's a gray area or like a hole. It's if you prove that you make more money, Uncle Sam's like, thanks. Thank
Bring
you
it
for
over here.
doing that. The banks are like, okay, great. We can approve you now. And Uncle Sam's like, yep, just approved for paying more taxes too. And if you're CPA or if you're doing a good job at like taking advantage of all of the advantages that we have, deductions and all of those things, if your CPA has done a great job, then you will not qualify for any of these products. Which is it? Make it make sense. So that's where I feel like being properly structured, again, structured, strategy, and understanding all that goes into that. There are pieces that are still missing for entrepreneurs. And there are those who have just said, okay, you know what? I know how I can structure myself within this lane right here. I know how I can qualify for things, and I know how I can save on taxes. I know how to keep my paper clean this way. So I will only invest in these things and I will just stay in this lane because that's what I know. However, in regards to personal finance, in regards to you can't mix the business and the personal stuff, then that's where people are the system is failing them in that way. And so that's what we're on the hunt for. So I couldn't agree more. Give us your feedback. What is it that you're trying to achieve, and where are those gray areas for you, so that we can, maybe there's some that we're missing just because that's not necessarily paths that we're crossing in our journey, right?
Right. And this is a standard response as well. Whether we're talking about getting approval for some type of product from a bank or even healthcare, most of my entrepreneur, I'll call it cohorts. It's, hey, my spouse is the one, because of their W-2 job,
Right.
are the ones that allow us to be able to qualify for whatever
Holding
that
it
vehicle
down.
might be. Right. Or we
Right.
leverage my spouse's W-2 job to be able to qualify for healthcare and things like so. So I think this is the standard response that I normally see. And it's really understanding what those details are, because I guarantee you there are answers out there. There are
Yeah.
things that we just don't know that we don't know. And what I'm looking to do is be able to lay out the prescription for my entrepreneurs as to, these are the steps. This is how you take control of this process. This is how you become self-directed within this process to be able to qualify for a mortgage or a HELOC or a line of credit or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah.
we'll get there.
We will get there for sure. Yeah. But you guys are here with us. So that's the most important piece, is that we stick together so that we can make a bigger noise together about these topics. Okay. April says, how can people speed up their compounding cycles?
Yep. So first we have to understand a compound cycle. What's a compound cycle? So it's the amount of time it takes for your money to double. So where does that even come from? It's based off simply the rule of 72. If you were to, take a look at your standard savings account, and if you were to ask yourself, hey, okay, I've got $10,000 sitting in this savings account with Bank of America, how long would it take for this $10,000 in this bank account, in the savings account with Bank of America? How long would it take for that money to double just one time? Well, you have to first identify what is the interest that you're making on that $10,000. Let's call it 1%. We all know that there's not a Bank of America savings account out there that's making more than 0.0, 0.02, 0.03%, unless you're talking about a high yield savings account, but I don't know that Bank of America offers them. So my point is, let's just call it 1%. Well, using the rule of 72 divided by 1% is 72. So what that means is that $10,000 sitting in that savings account, it will take 72 years for the 10,000 just to become 20. So the compound cycles for a traditional savings account at 1% is every 72 years that money doubles. So how do you speed up a compound cycle? Well, what impacts the compound cycle most is time. So if you can reduce the time, you can speed up the cycle. So if a 1% um, interest rate on a savings account for Bank of America is 72 years, what would it look like if they were making 10%? Well, 72 divided by 10 is 7.2. That would mean it would take 7.2 years for that 10,000 become 20. So that we've reduced the compound cycle because we've reduced the amount of time it takes for the money to double just one time. And we did that by what? Increasing the amount that the money is making. What we've learned about a secure compound interest account is the compound cycles inside of them is somewhere around 5 to 6 years. Really what it boils down to is starting as quickly as possible and getting your money in a vehicle that's producing a return higher than, I'll call it, that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14% mark, so that you can actually reduce the amount of years or the amount of time it takes for your money to double once. So that's kind of the moral of the story is you'd have to be in a vehicle that allows you to reduce the amount of time it takes for your money to double. And what I've learned, if we're talking about a traditional cash value life insurance policy like whole life, that compound cycle somewhere around 10 to 14 years. Again, traditional savings accounts, it could be somewhere from around 230 to 1,200 years in some cases. High yield savings account, okay, maybe 70 to maybe you can get it down to 36 years for your money to double. So it just really depends on what that vehicle would be as to what that compound cycle would be as well. So a lot of words to answer that question.
A lot of words. It's great. Well, you giving him a whole answer. That's important. All right. Roderick says, could Tania use her original PLOC to fund an MPI $1,000 a month?
So there are so many different ways to 10. Because I've been, and I think I'll probably run into this in the comments once we post this video, because there's many approaches here. What if that cash flow was just extra dollars that was put on to the mortgage itself? Who cares about a first position HELOC? What if we just dumped it onto the mortgage? Like, there are many different ways to get to an answer. So could Tania use her original PLOC and fund her MPI plan for $1,000 a month all day long? Absolutely. And you don't have to wait. In these examples, when I do these examples, I tend to pay down the HELOC or pay down the PLOC to a certain point and then chunk a larger dollar amount into whatever that debt is. Well, what if instead of, because I think in this example, I was using $10,000 chunks. What if we used $5,000 chunks? So again, there's many different ways to approach this. The short answer to that question is absolutely she could do that.
Okay. Just looking at how you did it, I had an idea in the beginning that was different than yours, and how I would have approached.
That's okay.
Yeah, and how I would have approached it, and we often do, because to your point, there's many different ways to get to 10. But I think working with what she already had, first and foremost, she saw a video about a PLOC, ran out and got a PLOC, right?
And it was immediate.
Right.
Immediate.
Right. And she was approved and she was able to put it into action, and kudos to her for that. However, had she had seen some of the HELOC videos first, she may have re-strategized there. Now she saw the HELOC videos after she already got her PLOC, and then she went, oh, well, maybe here's a question. She just kind of threw it out like, well, now that I've seen that, now should I change all of this into getting a HELOC? And I think understanding where your leverage is really important, but also understanding that just because you got a PLOC, for instance, just because you started there just to put something into action, and then you learned how to tweak it, how to optimize your system or your machine to be able to yield better results, do it. You're not committed to any of this as a strategy. You can optimize and you can change it along the way. There are situations where you could be penalized for making those changes. So understanding that is important. But again, being able to just jump on and get an assessment for, hey, these are my ideas. This is what makes sense to me. If you want to do that before you put your plan into action, this is, well, you hit the like button for sure, but I thought you were going to put up, Frankie, I thought you were going to put up the phone number or the website. I was like, oh, she's on it. You can start by liking. You can start by liking. You can go to selfdirected.info/live, and that is where you can get access to all the free resources and book your call. You can do both at the same time. We'll send you the resources and the calendar link in your email so that you can get your numbers together and then give him a call.
And and remember, when you do that, the key for me is what are we talking about? Because there's a lot of information at selfdirected.info that can answer a lot of your questions before you even get to me. Especially if we're talking about if I want to know more about the secure compound interest account, like I want to just make sure I understand or I'm clear as to what this product is and what it isn't. Because I've heard of infinite banking. How does this compare to infinite banking? All of those questions can be answered at selfdirected.info. There's a lot of information there. What I would hope our call looks like is about the strategy. It's about connecting dots, meaning you've educated yourself, you've seen our lives, you've watched some videos, you've maybe read a book, and you understand how this thing works. But what you're looking for is there's some dots that need to be connected around. There's just these small pieces that I'm not sure as to what this means, or there's some things that you don't hear me highlight a lot about, and that is like fees. What are the fees inside of a product like this? Like, how much does it actually cost me to be able to do this? And well, when I start down this process, like what's required of me? Do I need to get an exam? Like what actually, so those are hopefully when we meet, we're actually kind of digging into some of the finite details, finite details around what this process looks like and how to go about it versus the simple question around like, what is velocity banking? How does velocity banking work? Or what is a secure compound interest account? You know what I mean? So all of those kind of things. And before we move any further, I just like put his name up. It has really less to do about what's actually being said here. I just wanted to just share the name, like, because I agree with you, Donnell. I love my HELOC and my PLOC as well. And yes, you're right. Now it's time to get your secure compound interest account and get that process moving. So.
You know what's so dope is there's like even a deeper meaning about his name for you. Yeah.
Donnell, if you don't know what Donnell stands for, I would be happy to tell you. We don't have to do it here, but I'll absolutely break that down for you.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool thing because every time we see your name, we're reminded of like so much love. That's really what it is for us. And so I love that. I love that a lot. What we are talking about though is finding, it's not just the way to 10, right? What does 10 mean? 10 is financial security. 10 is being able to have your time back. 10 is security, not just in having money, but being able to have access to things. A lot of people say things like money doesn't buy happiness. Well, you know what it does buy? Access to healthcare.
Right.
It buys access. It buys you options. Right. And if we haven't learned anything about money buying you options, Andre 3000's new album is a perfect example of that, in that when you have lost the struggle, when you have nothing else to fight for in that sense, then all you have to focus on is you have the ability to focus on peace. You have the privilege to focus on peace. And you don't care what people think of you anymore. You don't have to perform for people in order to survive anymore. That's what you pick up a flute and you get your Kenny G on, flute-wise. I don't know what the word is. You get well, you know what? You be the Kenny G of flutes, and he made it happen, and he doesn't care what people think. He doesn't have to care.
But that's what money buys you. It buys you options. It buys you the option to be able to decide that on a random Friday, I'm going to pick up a flute and drop me an album. Like, that's pretty awesome.
Exactly. And I might skip in a video while I'm doing it, like, because I literally don't care. I am at peace and I want to just be myself. Having security also means that it's being out of survival mode. That's the part. Okay, so if you're not there now, or if you're living at your max, so many people are concerned, what if I make my policy? You're maxing your lifestyle right now, then that should not be your concern, right? We have to get into a position where we are focused on how can we afford peace? How can we afford less stress? How can we afford to know that our family's going to be okay? How can we afford what a lot of families have handed to them? And how can we do the same? That's what our mission is. That's what we're here to do. And we share a story here on our channel that is meaningful. It is a mantra. It's an anthem to ask yourself the question every day, how are the decisions that I'm making help me reach that goal? And this is why we spin for the boat. So today we're going to lead with this video so that you understand why we spin for the boat and why this little it's just it's like a toy, right?
I got
it's
oars.
a
Though.
miniature.
She doesn't have oars. I got oars.
No, I have it too. Why this is so significant though? Why we have these just right here at our desk even. We have them all over our home actually. And why you would want one too. So hold on, let me play this for you so that you'll get why we spin for the boats and why it's so significant. In 1998, a British rowing team dreaming of the Olympic gold found themselves ranked 7th. Their focus had always been on the competition day, but they realized the keys to reaching their highest potential were hiding in the decisions that they'd make over those next 2 years.
Faced with two obvious choices, continue their current path and expect the same result, or give up, they discovered a third transformative option. They united under one guiding question: will it make the boat go faster? Every decision, every action was weighed against this mantra. If the answer was yes, they could or would have to do it.
If the answer was no, it was forbidden, non-negotiable. Prior to the competition, this team was doubted and ridiculed, but no one knew what they had been doing. And once they hit the water, they were nearly unrecognizable, achieved their pinnacle, and won the gold. So we ask you,
What is your goal? What are you willing to do to achieve it?
will your story feel unrecognizable, even to you? Are you willing to light your beacon and stay focused, stay committed? Is your story non-negotiable, or are you waiting to find out how you ranked? Your financial future is not a game. You are only competing with yourself and those in the boat with you, your family and the many generations to come.
Will this make the boat go faster? A sounding alarm, a beacon of clarity amidst turbulent life decisions.
It's not just about speed, but direction, purpose, and an unwavering commitment. Every choice, every sacrifice aimed at the goal.
The first agreement this team made was to become fully self-directed, making their health their wealth, adopting a new perspective on their time and freedom, and the decisions they could fully control to reach their goal.
Will we make your boat go faster? That is our pledge to you. Our mission is to arm you with knowledge, strategies, and insights to ensure that not only you reach the goal, but you do. All right, let's spin for a boat. Let's do it. Anybody other than Nate who's won 14 boats? All right, let's see here. Up. Gotta get my money song. All right. Let's see. Veronica! I think this is her first time.
Well done. Well done. Well done.
Yeah. Woohoo! Yeah.
So Veronica, please provide us with your, obviously Veronica is your name, I would assume. So your name, your handle, and your address. Text it to us, and we're going to put the number at the bottom of the screen here momentarily. Please text us your name, your handle, and your address, and let us know that you won the boat, and we will get it over to you.
Yes, Veronica Matthews, congratulations on your boat. Okay, so let's do another one. Who else we got today? Did Rose already win a boat? To look, I don't think she did.
I don't think so.
No,
Yeah,
I think this is Rose's boat too. Woohoo!
Absolutely, awesome. So Rose,
Man.
again, please text us your address so that we can get this information over to you. Or get this information, get your boat over to you. And again, text us your name, your handle that you use during this live, and your home address, and we will get your boat over to you.
Yes. Okay. I just want to give one more boat away.
We'll do it, sweetheart.
Okay. All
It's your
right.
world.
Who's it gonna be? I think the spinner's fixed though. Scott. I think. Oh,
I
yeah,
believe
Scott.
Scott has absolutely
Yeah,
won
yep.
last time around.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Do it again.
All right. All right.
Congratulations, though, Scott. Hopefully you received it.
Who's it gonna be? Carlos already got one, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
And I
he
think
already
he
got
put it in the
his.
chat as well that he had received it. So yes,
All right,
Carlos
all
did
right.
receive this. Congratulations, Carlos.
Who is it gonna be? All right, now it's just getting silly. I think Roderick already won too this last time.
Roderick was like, I'm not. Well, Roderick was one who wasn't a part of the wheel, and now he's a part of the wheel. Now he's won twice.
Is everybody on here?
Looks kind of short to me.
Okay, well, we may have to. Let me see. Let me
Gonna reset it.
Yeah.
All right, while you're doing that, so for our winners, please text me your name, your handle that you use during this live, and your
Yes.
address, and we will get your boat over to you. Use the number below 602-560-7311. 602-560-7311.
Yep, that's it. Okay, here we go. One more time. One more time. That's it. Promise, guys. Replay viewers are like, hey.
See what I'm saying? There's always at least one. So, and Donnell was asking, so what does his name mean? So here's what I've learned, and this has been years of research, just so we're clear. Like I've done my homework. Donnell stands for Brave Dark Man. It's a Celtic name, and that name stands for Brave Dark Man. So, just so you're aware. So, Donnell, do me a favor. Send us your name, your handle that was used for this live, and your home address, and we will absolutely get this information over to you.
Yes, I mean, we'll get you. Okay, well, we'll send Roderick a boat then too. Okay, well, here we are. And this is, so the point of doing this, obviously, it's fun to give away boats. But what we know is that by putting this in your home and in your line of sight, right, this is just your visual reminder that when you see this, you're going to ask yourself, will it make the boat go faster? It'll kind of trigger you those anchor thoughts, anchor, boat, see what we did there? It's an anchor thought to help realign questions that you're asking yourself, decisions that you're making to help you calibrate your compass in achieving your goals. It's been a powerful tool in our own home and in our, I mean, shoot, we've used this in all facets of our relationship, of our family, of our home, and we know that this has been helping other people too. So sometimes we've had people call in and say, "Could I have a boat for?" Like my kids stole my boat. They love this idea. They wanted my boat. Well, let us know. We'll get you a new boat.
Or have them join the live and jump on the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to do our part in making the world a better place. And, being able to see the even just the difference that a visual representation can make, or a concept like this, to get on board and to be able to share it with other people. We shared this out last year, and we had like a friends giving of Christmas, right? I don't know what you call that. Friends Christmas? Friendsmas?
Friendsmas. I like Friendsmas.
Yeah, Friendsmas. And they came over for dinner, and I gave everybody the boat, shared this concept with them. Half of them were like,
what the hell is that?
What the heck is this thing? Okay. They're like, what is she doing giving us these things?
You guys are weird.
Yeah. They're just like telling our kids, like, what the heck? That's okay, because they just weren't ready yet. But we planted a seed, right? The other ones were like, hold the phone. Like, I have been feeling so lost. And for them, this was an anchoring moment to help tie them into their goal, to help them understand the directions that they were going and how to kind of, like I said, recalibrate. So it makes us feel good that we're out here sharing the word in this way, because it's a word. Will it make the boat go faster? It's a word on its own. That it could be code for a lot of different things, right? You're in a room, you're across the room at a party, and you're asking somebody, will this make the boat go faster? Could be code for, do you really want to do that?
You want this smoke? Do you really want this smoke?
Do you want it? Like, do you? Do you? Okay. So we hope that, okay. Congratulations to everyone who got the boat. My husband was so confused when I yelled out, I won the boat. A whole boat? Yeah. That's so awesome. I can imagine being in the other end of the room. That's hilarious.
Like, what the hell are we going to do with a boat? No lakes around here.
I thought we were trying to crush debt. What the heck you doing? Buying boats on YouTube channels. What in the hell are we doing? All right. We have a comment from Carlos, and then I think we can.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. Carlos says, if I put a lump sum on year 2 and 3 months later I take out a loan, how will this affect year 3 relock?
So year 3 pulls everything from year 1. So depending on how much you're thinking of leveraging from year 2, meaning you've put in a lump sum in year 2, so there's clearly cash value available there for you to be able to use. If you use an amount that impacts or I'll call it feeds into the amount from year 1, then yes, it can impact that relock. So it really just kind of depends on the dollar amount that we're referencing. But how about this? Can you leverage your cash value at year 2 to go be able to pay a bill, do infinite banking, whatever you would like? Yes, you can. My suggestion would be that you make it a point to pay back that loan when you're this early into the process, so that your policy is whole, so that at year 3 you're able to take full advantage of whatever that dollar amount would be that you're able to pull into year 3. But traditionally, what happens in year 3 is pulled in year 1 to be able to build that relock feature or create your jump or whatever the case may be. So short answer is it depends.
All right. And I think we're pretty caught up on questions. So congratulations to everyone who has won the boat. We hope that you had an amazing holiday weekend, intro to the holiday season. And we'd like to remind you to stay focused on your goals. And on that note, we like to end with, if you didn't come from a wealthy family,
you can make sure a wealthy family comes from you.
So stay focused.
Stay protected.
Stay tuned.
Stay connected.
I'm Angelique.
And I'm Donnell.
And our goal is to help you
get self-directed.
And to do that, we have free resources. So here they come. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Have a good night.
Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get self-directed.